Hi guys, welcome back to the Butterfly Effect podcast. I'm your host as always, Liam, here with Jack.
Hello, hello.
And we are playing Detroit Become Human. So Jack hasn't played it at all until now. I've played it before, platinum the game, love it. So yeah, Jack's discovering it for the first time. We're on our second part, so we'll kick straight into it. So we resume with Marcus in The Painter. So, I'll just throw it straight to you, Jack. What did you make of it? And one thing I want you to comment on as well is just sort of the mansion, sort of like the things you see, such as the technology around you and just how sort of stunning the game looks here.
Once again, like I said in the last episode, the visuals are absolutely astonishing in this game. Like, you really do feel like you're in a mansion, don't you? You've got these big open spaces. You can see that it's Karl, isn't it? The old guy.
Yeah.
A very rich man. He's got sort of like all of your up-to-date tech for that world. And I just had a lot of fun having a bit of downtime in these moments, just exploring the place. All like the various, like there's sort of like little mini games and things like things you can read in there.
Yeah.
It was just a really, really good space to kick off this chapter.
One thing I want to comment on as well is the technology you kind of see throughout the game. So, whether it's the stair lift, the device that carries Karl so he can do his painting, even from, the TV and the AI birds, it's such a unique game. And I just wanted to get your comment on what you thought of just the uniqueness of the technologies in this game.
Yeah, no, it is. And that the first thing I did, wasn't it, was I opened the cage and I was thinking it was going to be real birds. And then the fact that after I saw the circle on their heads, I was thinking, oh my God, they're android birds. And obviously I was thinking, oh my God, are they going to escape or anything? But he was literally just switching them on, putting them back in. It's just like such a nice detail.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of fun because the funny thing is, I think I did it in the wrong order, but I went round downstairs first.
Yeah.
I put the food out for Karl already, and then I went upstairs. And there was a fun little moment where, you get to put him on the stair lift. And I was thinking, I'm going to race him down there. I did. I narrowly won. I was thinking, I gave myself a good head start, and I beat him to the bottom of the stairs. And but no, as far as the other tech goes, like with the painting, because obviously he needs to be in a wheelchair, he needs this extra assistance. But just like the imagination and the fact that you feel like that, because it's set in 2038, you feel like this could be now for all we know, but there's certain things like that you think this could be around the corner. And it's just it's such a good way to enhance the world that you're playing in.
No, that's a really good comment. Before we move on to Karl and kind of his attitude and stuff, your comments there, I just wanted to say just a quote I picked up. You mentioned that you prefer Detroit Become Humans controls. For example, when you're going simply up the stairs to the mansion, you commented how in supermassive games it might have just been a cutscene, and if it was Telltale it probably just would have been one sort of strict camera, such as when Lee goes up to the St. John's house, to get Brenda to save Catcher, for example. Just tell me a little bit about what you think of Quantic Dream's control mechanisms here.
It's true, because speak about supermassive for a minute. I know there are moments where you do have a little bit of time to explore, but it feels like even in supermassive games you might walk 20 foot and then there'll be a very mini cutscene where you're then walking up some stairs, or maybe a character's just looking at something and then you come back to character. With Detroit, I feel like I've got so much agency to be able to go and look around, to interact with things. I haven't got that fear that it's then going to push the game forward, because I can always hit R2 and the objectives will come up and stuff like that. So I've got to admit, early doors I am actually preferring it like that. And of course you do get cutscenes, but they feel less heavy. It feels like the cutscenes come in where they should come in.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
No, of course. And I mean, we move on to the character that Marcus is taking care of, Karl. So, I mean, he's played by Lance Henriksen, who I think would be our channel's first recurring actor in different games. He obviously was Jedediah Hackett in The Quarry, and now we're seeing him again as Karl in Detroit Become Human. One thing that you notice off the bat, don't you, in your first interactions and dialogue with him, is his attitude towards androids. I think so far, you've met, for example, Kara getting, treated horribly by Todd. You've seen Marcus get pushed around by protesters. Connor with that mum who's just not happy about, an AI, doing the negotiation. But Karl's the first real human, isn't he, where you get a refreshing attitude of someone who's nice, who almost thinks that androids are the future because humans are fragile. I just wanted a little bit of your hot take on what you thought of Karl as a character.
Liked it, and I like the attitude that is such a welcome juxtaposition because, as you say, in the Connor chapter you've got the mum, in the Marcus chapter you've got the protesters, the homeless man with the androids stole my jobs. It's all been, obviously you're playing as the androids, but I think the fact that he respects and really appreciates the androids, it just makes a nice change in tone and just sort of character dynamic for this particular chapter. And he almost has wise words as well. I think he's the sort of character that he's really encouraging Marcus to have his own mind in a way, which I suppose could be a precursor to how things develop in this game with the androids. I don't know, but I mean, speaking for me personally, with that whole painting scene, I did it in an affectionate way with the painting. I was thinking, I'll copy Karl's painting, it's sort of just sort of affection really. But he actually turned around and went, "This is a copy. Do something of your own." And that just taught me more about his character. And then I picked the identity option, and I can't remember what the other one was. Doubts, that's right. And you ended up doing a picture of yourself. And I don't know if the picture changes for the choices that you make, but yeah, it was just a very father-son relationship. That was what I was thinking at that point. And then of course his actual son Leo comes through the door, and you can just tell off the bat with his the dark clothing, the greasy hair, maybe he's a bit unshaven or something, but he looks like a bit of a train wreck. And then of course this is confirmed, he sort of comes in, it's looking like he's doing drugs. He's obviously not really sort of taking care of himself. He doesn't really think that much of his dad. He's just sort of there as a bank account for him. And it's definitely positioning you as sort of the favoured child, and even Leo taps into this sort of, that thing is just plastic, and I'm your real son and all this sort of thing. So yeah, it was early doors a really good way to sort of set up the relationship between Marcus and Karl, and then you have this sort of triangle where Leo comes into it.
I think as well, and we touched on it as well, where Marcus is probably the slowest of the three main characters to get going. So we're kind of building up Marcus's world a little bit, and it's true, there definitely is a father-son type relationship here. I mean, even when you're doing either the chess, the book, or the piano, he even challenges you, with that, saying you play different or whatever. Even with your paintings, and he encourages you to paint. You're uncomfortable doing so, but he mentions a comment that, one day I won't be around, and he's almost trying to prep you for the bigger world. So it's almost like he's trying to teach you things, which I thought was a really interesting stance. He doesn't see you as a slave, he sees you as a son, and it's such a refreshing take. But yeah, and as for Leo, of course, it's really interesting to see this other, figure come in who feels sidelined by you. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that comes about. Are you happy to move on to Connor?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so obviously, you're Connor, you're in this bar, and your mission is to find Lieutenant Anderson. What did you make of the whole scanning the faces around the bar?
A nice little feature, because at the moment it's been very much scanning inanimate objects or dead bodies or something, isn't it? And you actually physically move around to find sort of certain clues and things to analyse. in this situation, you're scanning faces and it comes up with details like their age and like or their date of birth, maybe criminal record, that sort of thing. It just shows sort of like the sophistication of like the Android technology.
I have to say as well, you found Anderson fast. His face is really hard to scan, and I think me and the average person would end up going back to the bar in the bathroom, scanning people on the urinals, then going back in the bar. Where obviously we do meet Hank, who's the shady man on the bar with the long hair drinking his whiskey. So I'm going to say off the bat, Hank will be my favourite character this game. I love Hank as a character. I think he's brilliant. So I can't wait to see the Hank-Connor partnership. Obviously, it doesn't start the easiest. He clearly, this whole bar as well as Hank aren't too happy that an android has walked into a non-android bar. And yeah, obviously, he wants to just carry on drinking before you pull him off to the homicide. So it looks like with this playthrough, you decided to be very patient with him. You offered to wait outside. You didn't spill his drink on the bar. Is there a reason you chose to go down this pathway with him?
I suppose because it's the introduction of a character. I'm a police negotiator. He's a higher rank, and naturally, I feel like the story is going to go in such a way where these two are going to work together. I didn't want to start them off in a negative way.
Of course.
And I was thinking I want him to have me on side because I was already aware that I was in a non-android bar, for example, which is interesting itself because it sort of blurs the lines because he is actually working with the humans. He's in police. Does that give him extra privileges and such? But it would seem not.
It does seem almost like almost reminiscent of kind of like racial segregation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like no androids allowed in this bar, which is really interesting in itself, but it's just accepted in society, Before we move on to the crime scene, I just wanted to touch upon a quote. I really like the fact that Connor doesn't understand sarcasm, being an android.
I'm sorry, Lieutenant, but I must insist. My instructions stipulate that I have to accompany you.
You know where you can stick your instructions?
No. Where?
Never mind.
But we move on to the crime scene now. I told you this, that I think Jack is going to enjoy the Connor scenes the most because, Jack likes his crime. You get to basically be a detective. And you get this whole scene, don't you, where you get to analyse a crime scene and a murder, Jack. What did you think of this whole scene?
Yeah, I really liked it. Of course, like the setting, it feels so claustrophobic and dark, and of course you have this dead body, and you have all the various bits of evidence that you can pick up. And to quickly touch on that, I actually really like the fact that, as you said, that that there's 10 bits of evidence to find, and it after you've found each one, it then ticks to sort of show that you're sort of an 8 out of 10 or something like that. But of course, like you're making your way around, and of course there's reconstructions again, like in the previous Connor scene, where you can work out what happened, and of course it looked as if the father was attacking the deviant, and then the deviant retaliated and stabbed him, and then followed up by giving him
28 samples!
So like it was cool to see that. There was also a little thing in the bathroom where like you see some like writing all over the wall and some like religious figure, and I have no idea how that comes into play yet. I imagine that will be maybe like a story thing later. Of course, like you then have this moment where, because of the way I played it, and I know this can be different, but it ended up where Connor says to Hank, that there's some thulium or something like that. Therium, that's it. And it's basically like the blue blood that like keeps all the robotics in check in the android, and it was like leaking from the deviant. So I could then follow it, and it like essentially led to like this dark corridor where you could like go up into the attic. And I remember I said to you at the time, didn't I? I was thinking, isn't this something that I should be reporting to Hank like before I go up there? Because I actually didn't just grab the chair to go up there. And I was thinking, I hope this doesn't spell like a death for my character if the deviant's up there and he just outright kills me. But But the scene that follows is so good, and I said this at the time because I do see this as like a sci-fi game. Obviously, it's got like philosophical angles in there, but the fact you're at a crime scene, so there's a nod to another genre in crime. But this sequence as well, where you're literally just edging forward as Connor. You've got to go through like a tapestry or like a sheet or something, and you see something dart in front of you, and it was something like straight out of a horror film, which I really enjoyed. And of course, you then confront the deviant, and it says, "Please don't give me away." I was just defending myself, and I was expecting a choice here. I'm surprised that there wasn't one, but Connor just went, "No, Lieutenant Anderson, it's up here." And then they send the police up to go grab him. But I do feel as though whether it's going to be rooted in my choices or whether this is going to be a character arc that Connor goes on, I do have a prediction early doors that he's going to start to sympathise with the androids, and he's going to be like slap bang in the middle of the androids and the humans. Obviously, him working for the humans as like a police negotiator, consultant, or whatever, and that's going to make the player be put in like very difficult decisions. So that's why I say it was surprising there was no choice there. But this whole section for me, yeah, it was brilliant. Like beautifully paced, and great characters and all that.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, to be honest, there's not much to say other than we mentioned the philosophy of, Connor maybe sympathising with the androids. I just want to get from your personal take. Obviously, from the reconstruction, which you got spot on, it sounds very much like the owner of the android was hitting the android with a baseball bat, and the deviant simply acted in self-defense, maybe short fuse, caused murder. Do you have any sympathy towards the android? Do you feel bad that in this kind of world, I guess, someone who's getting beaten with a baseball bat retaliates in self-defense and then possibly gets punished for it? I mean, what is your take? Do you feel really sorry that Connor's gone and outed this android who was trying to defend himself?
It's an interesting question because I feel like that they are the whipping boys, aren't they? Essentially, the androids, and rather than the human having their problems addressed, like be it through therapy or like it's like especially talking from like Todd, for example. The fact that that because they're not deemed as human, it just almost is like a perfect excuse for like that very primitive emotion of human, whether it's anger or like resorting to violence. It's like, there's not going to be any repercussions for it, so that's fine. In terms of like how the android should be punished, that's an interesting question, because is it really their fault in a weird way? How much agency do they really have? They were designed by humans after all. So like again, like it already is raising like some really like interesting moral questions, which I can't quite commit to an answer just yet. But no, nonetheless, I do think that it's wrong for the humans just to have that outlet and that escape of it's just not human. I shouldn't be punished or reprimanded for it.
Of course. Okay, so I mean, we move back to the Karls story. So you're serving dinner, where you get to deal with your favourite character, Jack and Todd. So yeah, I mean, you cook a spag bowl.
It looked delicious, yeah.
It did, which ends up on the floor. And, he starts flipping out, and, you get a bit of the backstory about where the mother figure's gone, left and slept with an accountant or whatever, because Todd's obviously dwelling in the drugs and, his mental health or whatever, probably couldn't hack it. So he's left there to look after Alice, who he seems to blame quite well. And we touched on this thing about the controversy around the domestic violence, and it's really prominent in this scene. It's probably like the most controversial scene for it, where I can't remember if he slaps her or punches her, and she runs upstairs, and he's pacing around the room, and we get our first deviant breakout scene, which is obviously, as you'll come to learn, which is how an android becomes a deviant. So just tell us a little bit about it, like if you what you were thinking, if you wanted to do it right away, just what happened in this scene for you?
I suppose it did come up saying don't move, and I was thinking at the time, like, well, because it had like the whole red wall thing as well, you know, similarly to the red wall when you like go to an area that you're not supposed to go to, it comes up in red. I was thinking, am I supposed to move here? But it also said protect Alice like a second before. So for a little while, I did nothing. But then like the button came up I think there was like a couple of QTEs. But then after that, it then came up like, do you want to protect Alice or reason with Todd? And I suppose I do sort of regret the decision I made. But I went to try and reason with Todd. And I was like, you know what, calm him down, sort of like, you know, rather than go upstairs and him follow me, how about I protect the child by almost keeping my distance, trying to reason with him there and then, attack the problem at its source, rather than risking endangering her by following her. That completely slapped me in the face. He then just hits me to the ground and then goes upstairs, and you can see like he's taking his belt off, like he's gonna go and hit Alice. And of course then you follow her upstairs, and like Karl, I don't know if she's like gone, I suppose she has gone full deviant, because I did do the QTs at this point, but she said like don't attack Alice, and this like really cool fight scene ensues. And I've got to say, I was on the edge of my seat a bit. I think partly because I'm an Xbox player, there is still that sort of like slight disconnect in terms of like getting the right buttons and the right things like L1, R1, you know, square and stuff. Like I'm just so used to like A, X and the bumpers and stuff. But there was a couple of times that I failed the QTEs, weren't there? Unlike the Quarry, where it's like ridiculously easy. And I was thinking, oh God, like how much of an impact that could have.
I quite like that though, because from a person observing yourself play this game, with say the Quarry where Laura's fighting Jedediah, it's just so easy and there's no heart isn't racing. But with this one, you're failing them, then you're succeeding them. So Todd's landing in some punches, but then you're dodging them, then you throw him against the wall, and anyone could win. And from my perspective, I had no idea which way it could go, because Kara can die in this scene. You can kill Kara as early as now, and I was like, are you just not going to have Kara in your game?
Oh my God.
And I was just really, you know, my breath was taken there, to be honest. And another thing I want to mention as well is that, you know, in the earlier scenes, you can notice a gun and a window escape.
Yeah.
So obviously you didn't grab the gun, did you?
No, I did not. Like I said to you after finishing that whole scene, you mentioned, oh, didn't you like go on and go grab the gun? I completely forgot about it. But two, I think I got so wrapped up in the whole scene itself and the QTE, I don't even remember seeing the drawers to even like have a nod at the gun. I did think there was at one point he was on top of me by the window. It did then come back to me as to think, oh, maybe there's a way out here, like to wrestle him off me and then to sort of get out onto the ledge by the house. But that didn't happen. It just ended up with me
going to the front door, wasn't it?
Yeah, essentially like knocking him down to the ground, grabbing Alice, going out the front door, which I then felt the QTE, and like I can't really say this as like a criticism, to be honest, because I quite like the fact that I felt some QTEs in there. It just makes it so much more believable. But it's that QTE where like it's an analog and you have to like pull it to one direction and then swing it round, and for some reason my eye was like distracted by the direction of the arrow, not like the line before it. So I failed that QT. I was thinking, oh damn, it was I meant to get out the front door there, and there was like more fighting and stuff, and I was really starting to think like, shit, am I going to get Kara killed here? Which is what you want at the end of the day. So yeah, I mean, I did end up getting out with her, didn't I? Ran out through the backyard.
From a observer, it was so interesting because you can get out that front door, but you failing it just meant the fight scene go on for longer, and it just made your heart race even more because obviously you didn't choose the gun, so you didn't kill him in the bedroom.
No.
But you knocked his head, so he was kind of, a little bit foggy.
Yeah.
But he was kind of walking after you, and I think that is almost a better scene because it creates this a bit of like a horror ambience of this. It's almost like really dangerous, angry character just walking down the stairs after you while you're trying to unlock the door. And in failing that one, there were more dodges, more fighting throughout the living room and the kitchen, and then you managed to escape out the back door instead. And yeah, you caught the bus, which I have to mention as well, by the way. The music here is so epic. It's tense while it's going, and then you've got the violins that kick in while you're leaving to get onto the bus. And also, something I mentioned to you as well while we are on the soundtrack is there are no big number bands in this game. Everything is done by local Detroit artists. And this game is littered with intricacies and beautiful touches, and I think that's one of them. And it's just really cool that they're helping local bands out in the area they've set the game in, which I just thought was a really cool detail. For myself, it was very similar. I think I got out the front door, so, it's... I had the same ending, but I didn't get the cool, prolonger, more tense version that you probably got. Your heart was probably racing more than mine was in that scene. And I think, like you say as well, it is very difficult for... Xbox and PlayStation. I know they're both controllers, but there is sometimes a difficulty, isn't there, of knowing what's a tap, what's a hold, what's a press.
Yeah.
Then there's PlayStation Move versus the pad versus the analogs. And I don't know if it is a criticism, but one thing I did say is that maybe there could have been like a little sort of tutorial based thing that mixed these together, because it almost felt like it was very thrown in, and Jack did very well to get through it obviously, but I feel like if maybe Kara died at the scene, you probably would have a reason to feel a little cheated, that it was very just thrown at you if you're not a PlayStation gamer, for example.
Yeah,
we go on to the final Marcus chapter, Broken, which isn't too big a scene. You come home late and the lights are on, there's a potential break-in. You called it off the bat. There's only one other character. Yeah. In these chapters so far. It was always going to be Leo, who knows where he is. He knows how to get in already. He starts getting angry, pushing you about. Karl's ordering you to just take it. And again, we get another deviant breakout scene, so it's Marcus's turn, literally the chapter after Kara does it, and it's dead interesting because what I like about it is that they're getting pushed, or maybe something's happening which is like conflicting their potential orders, because you'll get their circle that changes from blue to yellow and they can't quite process what's happening, and it's almost like when they do become deviant, it's human inflicted, isn't it?
Yeah.
Such as the android that killed Carlos Alters in the crime scene. That was just done out of self-defense. Kara was doing it because her orders are to protect the child. Mm-hmm. And clearly, Todd's contradicting that. And in this case, it's, it comes up with this is not fair, and you've got all this code coming on screen, and Marcus just doesn't know how to handle it. So yeah, I just thought that's a really brilliant touch of what's causing these... androids to become deviants, and also the visuals of it as well. It's almost like a second silhouette of yourself that's breaking through a wall and trying to break away from that robotic static nature, and I don't know, I really like the effect of that. But yeah, Jack, I'll just go straight to the choice. Did you pish Leo, or did you enjoy? I don't know why I'm asking, because I know what you did, but for the audience.
For the audience, yeah. I did endure it, I suppose, partly because of curiosity, because obviously the previous scene I didn't endure. I suppose I didn't endure it because I broke out, and then I wanted to reason with Todd, and then obviously I had this very intense scene. But as well, I did look at Karl as that wise father figure, and I was thinking I do trust his opinion here. And of course I knew that the police were coming as well, so if I flipped out and I was just stood over Leo's body or something and Karl was there, it's going to look, obviously, and because there's such a prejudice against androids already, I was thinking that's going to look really bad for Marcus. So I was thinking, you know what, there's sort of two reasons there. I was like, I'll endure it, hopefully it doesn't lead to him getting killed. I've got to say, the ending, the way, he then, I think Karl has a heart attack and I think he's dead. I think he is. and the police then barge in, and you're stood there, and like Leo says, "Oh, it was him. He did it," and the police shoot. For a split second, I was thinking, "Fuck, is he dead?" But then I was thinking, weirdly, first rule of horror, I haven't seen him dead, so I'm assuming that he's going to be alive going into the next chapter. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to see.
Yeah, it's interesting as well. One thing I really liked about that scene as well, or not liked, but it was powerful and almost accurate, was the fact that the police don't even stop to interrogate whether Leo's right. It's just believe the human over the android.
Very true.
And you're
yeah.
shot dead on the spot. And it almost is very reminiscent of how a lot of cops, I mean, particularly in like USA, for example, can be based off of like race, sex, class or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's horrible to see, isn't it, that the police brutality here, that Leo, who is at fault, is just, blamed you.
Mm.
And Marcus, who had this very privileged life where he's got a really good owner, probably easier than, a lot easier than, say, Kara's life, for example. And now his life's been flipped on the head because his owner's got a heart attack, you've been shot, dead, or whatever. So it's just, dead interesting to see how it is. Another interesting thing is the flowchart at the end. Now, just to see what happens if you push Leo, which is a very 50-50 choice based off of people I've seen. I've seen people push Leo, people endure it like I did. I did the same as you.
Yeah.
So if you push Leo, he actually bashes his head against, one of the machines. And I don't know if he is dead or gets injured, but, and Karl's very, angry at you. And it ends pretty much the same as Marcus getting shot. It's just... same destination, different pathway, which is really interesting to see.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, that's everything. Jack, anything to add on top of that?
It'll be good to see what happens to Marcus's character now, because I'm going to go on the assumption that Karl is dead, or at least if he's had a heart attack, he's going to go to hospital. He's going to be an absent figure for Marcus now. So it could go one of two ways. Does he sort of think, you know what, I'm an android, humans hate androids, and maybe this whole identity thing that Karl was telling me about means that he's gonna, revolt essentially and start going against the humans? Or will it sort of do the opposite effect, that his love for Karl as a human, he thinks, no, they're not all bad, and maybe sort of take a more grey area stance that sort of like Connor does. So yeah, it'd be good to see how that pans out.
I remember being really stunned by that Marcus scene, because when I was in your shoes, I was thinking, what the hell are they going to do with Marcus in his next chapter? Mm. Do you have any predictions for what could happen? Because it's just, he's been shot by the police.
Well, you could have a scene where he meets Connor. I don't know if this is going to be a situation where they slowly start to bring the playable characters together. Maybe there's a moment, even if it's very subtle, where you're playing as Connor and maybe Marcus walks past you or something like that. But of course the police is sort of like a theme that would link these two characters. So maybe they link up, maybe they're on different stories and they don't. But yeah, we'll just have to see, really.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much for joining us, guys. As always, we'll be doing more of these Detroit Become Human chapters as Jack discovers the game. So yeah, thank you very much for joining. We'll see you in the next one.
See you in the next one, guys.